G'day guys, Christian Murray here, publisher of the Queen's Post. Today I'm going to be talking to Nick Velkov. He's running for the 22nd Council District that covers Astoria and parts of East Helmhurst, Jackson Heights and Woodside. So Nick, thank you very much for joining me today.
Hi, Christian. No, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to come on.
Great. Well, listen, so I just want to get the ball rolling by, asking you, tell us a little bit about yourself, why you're running for office, and what you would bring to the district if you were a council person.
Oh, sure. So my name is Nick Velkov. I'm actually a yoga instructor in Astoria. I'm a small business owner as well. I operate my own yoga studio. And much of the contribution that I very much want to bring to the city council race is that I have a particular passion and priority, life priority on health and wellness initiatives. I've been engaging in different mindfulness exercises for many, many years of my life now. Meditation and breath control and mindful movement of the body. And I have a feeling that some of these lessons that I've been fortunate enough to pick up over the years would be very important right now as we move out of a pandemic year. I think my best judgment is telling me that a lot of human bodies need to rehabilitate physically, that a lot of human minds have been inundated with a lot of stress and could really go through some serious stress reduction techniques. I have a feeling that some of our social dynamics have been strained, and that as we move back into a post-pandemic world, we might need a little assistance on how we conduct ourselves socially with others. And these are, conveniently the lessons that I have picked up in many, many years of yoga study. And I'd like to bring these into the public platform that we call the city council race. I think that the most pragmatic thing that we could do right now is to follow along with many of the programs that I would like to champion and spearhead. So that's why I'm in the race, and that's a little bit about my background and who I am. I'm happy to delve into more details.
That is a unique story. So Nick, tell us about how long you've lived in the district and what you plan to do in the district and how you're involved in various things.
Yeah, sure. I moved to Astoria in 2010. I moved to open up my yoga studio, Yoga Agora. And for several years, I worked as a local yoga instructor. And the mission of the yoga studio was to provide access to yoga classes as widely as possible, to be absolutely as inclusive as we could be. Because, I really have a genuine passion to share the lessons of yoga. I genuinely in my heart believe that it's very helpful for anyone who wants to try. So I wanted to share that. So I opened the studio with very low-cost yoga classes. Oftentimes in New York City, yoga classes tended to be relatively expensive. And so I offered very low-cost classes. At the time I opened, the classes were only $5. I also offered some donation-based classes, pay what you wish yoga classes for those who might even be on a tighter budget. And after doing that for several years, I kind of met my neighbors in an organic way. And in 2014, I opened a second yoga studio actually in Manhattan. And it was a much different experience I had. My Astoria yoga studio on Broadway and 33rd Street, it went pretty smooth. I've got a good landlord and, everyone's been cooperating well. At the second studio I opened in Manhattan, we had an unfortunate experience with a negligent landlord and many building problems and building violations and heat going out, or heat never being provided in the building, elevators breaking down, electrical wiring under violation. It was like a litany of problems. And I reached out to the city and I looked for help, and I found the city to be very uncooperative. I reached out to the public advocate, I reached out to the local council member, and I didn't get much help. And it led me to learn a little bit more, to educate myself a little bit more on the landscape of small businesses in New York City. What I found is that there are some really great activist organizations who are pushing for small business protections, such as the Small Business Job Survival Act and other forms of commercial rent control. And I met some of the participants in these groups, and that led me to other local grassroots organizations, such as the Justice for All Coalition, who's based in Queensbridge Public Housing. And this organization, I think, is really enlightened because they look at community building in a very holistic, ecosystem-like way, where small businesses are one part of an overall cooperative ecosystem of grassroots participatory democracy, where you protect small businesses, you protect public housing, you open up more green space, you provide for community-led development. I met these participants of the Justice for All Coalition. I loved going to their meetings. They're kind-hearted people who want to do what's right in the world. I thought, you know, a Monday night meeting with Justice for All is the best way for my soul to spend my time. I also became involved with a group who's pushing for more community land trusts. This group is the Western Queens Community Land Trust, and I met some of the individuals who are part of this group. I find them to be very inspiring. They're doing the real grassroots, people-powered work to keep public land public and to give power to the hands of communities. I love that. That warms my heart. I like spending time with them. I haven't been on with them very late much because Zoom is kind of a thing that I find difficult to engage in, but the group is wonderful, kind-hearted humans, and I spend time learning from them on the importance of community land trust and other, public land protection. So these are the things that I guess I've been doing mostly in the community. I teach outdoor yoga classes now, I'm kind of like an Astoria homebody, I guess.
So we're going to go in a completely different direction now. What are your thoughts on the future of Rikers Island? It's in the district. Do you think it should close? And what do you propose potentially going there should it close?
Sure. So I'm all in favor of renewable Rikers, which I guess was recently signed into law. Sounds like a great idea. Let's absolutely use that land for renewable energy sources. Beyond that, I have some other ideas that I think make sense to me, which if you don't mind indulging me in just a little bit, I would like to lay the groundwork for a plan for Rikers with an understanding that I see what we call crime. I see that from my best human consciousness. I see crime as acts of trauma. Those who commit in what we call crimes, I think, as far as I understand human nature, to be an act of some kind of like mental or spiritual trauma that had inflicted a human being at some point in their life. I just genuinely don't believe anyone is born a criminal. This doesn't happen. We learn this. So if we approach criminal activity in that way, maybe we can find some creative ways to work with particular humans to steer their mind away from their what we call criminal tendencies and more toward a rehabilitated cooperative tendencies. I believe this can be done. I believe with the right creativity and the right effort, any human being can be rehabilitated. So maybe Rikers could be a great rehabilitation center. I mean, it's an island. You could get some sun. You can walk around the grounds. I don't know if anyone is listening, if you're familiar with Vipassana meditation. Apparently, it's a very effective way of getting ourselves calm and increasing the compassion of our minds. Maybe we can bring those who we bring to Rikers, we can teach them these things on the grounds. Let them walk around and practice Vipassana meditation. I mean, that's a little extreme. Vipassana meditation is pretty intense, so you work up to that. But these would be the roots of what we could do with Rikers. I'll tell you this. I've heard about these borough-based jails. I think that's a huge mistake. I don't know where anyone's consciousness was when they decided to make borough-based jails. I mean, that's so expensive. You're talking about like in the dense urban neighborhood, you're building these giant monolith structures. I think that's a bad idea, waste of time and effort and money. I'd say, you could renovate Rikers, bring those who need trauma healing. And, let's also make sure that we don't exaggerate the parameters of what crime is. I'm sorry, like cannabis is not a crime, sex work is not a crime. Like let's just let's get that off the docket. But if an act of violence happens, and we are humans, and violence could occur, conflict occurs, there are ways that we can mediate conflict without jail and Rikers. There's peacemaking programs we can use. There's violence interruption we can use. If an act of violence occurs, perhaps the perpetrator of violence needs some serious deep healing. And I think we could offer them good, creative healing solutions on an island like Rikers. I think that's my idea.
Okay, all right, that's sound. I just want to talk to you about some rezonings. There's a rezoning going on at Newtown Avenue, and I just wanted to get your thoughts on that. You know, it's a big residential parcel. Do you think that should go forward?
No. Here's okay. The rezonings are we have ULURP. You know, ULURP. I find that to be one of like the saddest displays of political theater. I mean, it's I see it happening, and I see everyone participating in it, and it makes me kind of sad that we all just play this puppet game. Okay, okay, you know what I would say? You want to rezone, give the rezoning decision to the community board itself. Okay? As far as I know, I don't know what the community board decided on this Newtown rezoning. I don't know what they decided. If they like it, if the community board likes this rezoning, okay, then fine. I would support it. I don't know what the community board vote on that was.
They supported it.
To be honest, with the way the ULURP process. Okay. If the community board supports it, thank you for that. I didn't know what their position was on that. Yeah. Community boards who support it, I would give power to community boards to decide. I will tell you this, affordable housing, as far as I understand it, MIH, I think that's a scam. I think affordable housing is basically just like a developer's tax haven. So I think MIH needs some like serious recalculations. Right. So anytime I hear of MIH being part of some rezoning, I'm not too keen to jump on board with that. But again, I would give ultimate deference to the community board itself.
Okay. So
it kind of depends who's on the community board.
You're saying that community boards that I guess should have binding votes. How else would you change the ULURP process?
Well, I don't think you particularly need to get the Queensborough president, or the borough president involved. I don't. What's the point of that? I mean, it's like, to be honest, and this is going to require a deeper conversation. But right now, I'm of the mindset, I don't even know why we have a borough president. I don't know what they do. I mean, it seems a little bit more ceremonial than anything. So again, I'm willing to have that conversation. I'm willing for anyone to enlighten me on the importance of having borough presidents. But from what I've seen thus far, it doesn't seem like a particularly important, meaningful position with a lot of teeth. So I think you can take the borough president out of the equation. Yeah, I guess I really like the idea of giving communities themselves the final say on these rezonings. And there might even be ways of, I'd like to give more teeth to community boards, maybe even the extent of resilience studies. I'd be all in favor of maybe those need to be a little bit more extensive. Maybe the MIH math. I don't know if you qualify that as part of ULURP, but that MIH math needs to be seriously recalculated. That's antiquated math.
Yeah, I mean, it is part of the zoning process. When one of these developers seeks a rezoning, that MIH kicks in. So it kind of is.
Yeah. All right. So let's change that. That MIH, that's antiquated. I don't know why people are still using that.
Okay. Now, obviously, the city council member gets the final say on these developments in terms of rezonings. Do you think the council member of a district should get that final say, and that the city council votes according to the wishes of that council member?
Yeah, if I definitely would prefer that the council, the entire council, defers to the local council member. I like that idea. I don't like each of our neighborhoods are little mini economies of their own in many ways, you know, and they're little spaces of unique culture and, you know, identity. That, you know, I don't think anybody in Northern Manhattan has so much of a valuable insight on what Red Hook Brooklyn needs to do. I don't think so. I think the people of Red Hook, they can decide for themselves. So I don't think I think neighborhoods should be allowed to develop as they wish, neighborhood by neighborhood. So I like the idea of allowing the local council member to have the say in the body. But even more than that, I love the idea of the community board having the final say, or at least having some more teeth in the process. Maybe it can be a collaborative decision between the council member and the community board, but the community board needs some teeth, I think.
All right. Now, talking about community boards, at the moment, they're appointed by the city council member and the Queensborough president. Half are selected by or appointed by the city council member, I guess, with the final say by the borough president, and then the other half are appointed by the borough president. Would you change the way individuals are appointed to these boards?
Yeah, I applied for the community board. And I didn't get on. I was so heartbroken. No, I mean, no, I'm actually not. I don't know. I applied. Melinda Katz was the borough president, and I just got a letter saying thanks but no thanks or something. It was nice, but you know, whatever. No, I don't know. It was nothing personal. So I think no. I mean, you know, what's that?
There's a lot of applications.
Oh, yeah. So I think I think I'm a perfectly stable member of the community. I think I would have been a good community board member, but the process as it was didn't let me on. Okay, that's okay. You know, I'm a grown up. I can, you know, I can carry on. But it does make me wonder, like, you know, what was the criteria used? I think I would have been a good board member. What criteria were they using? Maybe there needs to be something more local. You know, the Queensborough president doesn't know who I am. I'm just a local yoga instructor. They don't know who I am. I can write a little bit about myself, but they don't know me personally. But, you know, if I think maybe there could be some kind of local neighborhood vote for the community board. Maybe the people of the community vote for their own community board. Maybe you, I don't know, collect a bunch of signatures or something, or you, maybe you could, maybe just apply to the board itself and introduce yourself. And right. It should be more personal. You know, I mailed in an application to Queensborough Hall. I never met anybody. A staffer called me and spoke to me on the phone. And I told them about how I really like justice for all, and I really like keeping public land public, and they asked me a few questions. And never, you know, I never met anyone in person, and that was it. So I think there could be a more personal touch on how we appoint our community boards.
Okay, all right. So moving to a different direction. How would you view the NYPD if you were the city council member? How would you what would you do in terms of their budget? How would you would you be looking to reallocate resources? What would you do with the NYPD?
So, okay, yeah, the budget's big. You can cut it. There's room to cut. I thought about this, you know, a lot over the year. I know what it's like. I'm a small business owner. I know what it's like to work with a very tight budget. And if I do say so myself, I know how to produce good results on a very tight budget. You know, the NYPD has $6 billion. That's a lot of money. Okay, you can trim some of that. Now, let's the low hanging fruit. Get rid of the militarized weapons. Why that's crazy. We don't even have to get too deep into why that makes sense. Get rid of the militarized weapons. Easy. The surveillance. I mean, come on. Like I every Saturday. Well, I mean, not now. It was cold, but back in the summer and in the fall, at Saturdays at Queensbridge Public Housing, we would gather there on the basketball courts with a group of community activists who put together a little makeshift arts program called From the Ground Up. It's brilliant, run by this like awesome activist named Sugar Ray. There was like freestyle rapping and ciphers and like dance and like break dance. And one guy was like doing spoken word poetry, standing on his head. It was awesome. Every Saturday, come out there. Sugar Ray brings vegan food. We're eating vegan food. Everyone's hanging out on the basketball court. It's awesome. They got speakers. I mean, and these people are geniuses. They do these freestyle raps. Never seen anything like it. I mean, there's no way my brain could figure out how to freestyle what they do. They're geniuses. And they're doing, and they're hanging and on my own two eyes, many weeks in a row. You've got a squad car hanging out, boys in blue with their suits on, uniformed, hanging out. One time, they even harassed Sugar Ray and some of the other members there for setting the vegan food up on tables. Said you can't be setting up food here, and there was like a little bit of tension. And I never understood, like, why is this squad car here? Like everyone here is chilling. This is like, there is like no tension here. Everyone's having a good time. They're expressing art. It's great. But the cops are there. Why? There's a cost. There's an easy cost to cut. You don't need to staff it. You don't need to post up surveillance at Queensbridge on Saturday night with a bunch of kids, doing freestyle raps. You don't need that. So that's some low-hanging fruit you can get rid of. Now, reallocation, yeah, I mean, look, here's the thing. I also see, though, NYPD is, they're made up of humans, okay? I see the humans behind the uniform. I think some of that perspective does get a little bit lost in the discussion, and I understand why, because a lot of those humans commit misconduct and they're not held accountable, and definitely mark my words to put me on record that absolutely we need to increase accountability for misconduct. You commit misconduct, you have to know the consequences of it. The bottom line, you got to know what a consequence is like for misconduct. So you've got to beef up accountability. But I'm also gonna go on record to say that not every single human on the NYPD is responsible for misconduct, or they're not malicious human beings. Not every one of them. Not everyone. There's good humans there. I would like to see. I think the NYPD has an Office of Health and Wellness. That sounds brilliant to me. You got an Office of Health and Wellness. They give these the police officers talk therapy after like a traumatic day. They sit down. They do talk therapy. Brilliant. They do yoga classes. That warms my heart. Obviously, I'm probably a little biased. I really like yoga, but I know that, yeah, absolutely. Just do some stretches, do some twists. Just get your head hanging down between your legs a little bit. You get some blood flow to your brain. You feel good. You rehabilitate the body. Pretty simple stuff. We've known this for centuries. Giving the cops yoga classes, going to rehabilitate them. I think if more money goes to the Office of Health and Wellness, I think you're going to see a huge decrease in misconduct. I think that's the bet I would make. Huge decrease in misconduct, a whole lot more cooperation between the police and communities. And you could reallocate some of the humans who are now doing those more, unnecessary pervasive things like the over surveillance. Get those, get those surveillance humans and let's repurpose them as maybe, violence interrupters, community leaders. There's something to be said too about hiring NYPD from outside the city. I don't know if that's the best idea. I think that we should hire from within communities. I think, I'm not saying that Sugar Ray, the leader of From the Ground Up, should become a police officer, but certainly I think you could use some NYPD money to pay him to just keep his Saturday night program going. That makes sense to me. He's keeping the peace. Everybody who goes there on Saturday nights is learning from a great role model and enjoying art. That's a great way of keeping peace in a neighborhood. I'd say, yeah, throw some money to him. Let's use that NYPD money to make more programs like that. So that's where you got room for allocation.
Right.
But yeah, I think
what about moving school safety agents away from the
oh,
NYPD? What's your thought?
yeah. That's another piece of low hanging fruit. Why do we need cops in school? That makes no sense to me. It makes no sense to me. I can't. I've heard arguments. I don't know about safety, whatever. That doesn't seem like a safe environment to me. I don't want to go to school with a cop, armed or unarmed. I don't care. It's weird. No, that's low hanging fruit. We don't need police in the schools. No way.
On a different matter, what are your thoughts on non-citizens and undocumented people having the right to vote in New York City elections? That's been, kicked around a lot in recent years, and it could well come up for a vote, not too, in the next year or so.
I think it would only be helpful. I mean, it's in our best interest to have a robust democracy. If you're living here and you're participating, okay, citizen, not citizen, I mean, you live here. We're sharing the neighborhood. Yeah, vote. I mean, yes, they should be allowed to vote. It makes no sense to me not to allow them. Maybe there can be some, requirements. I don't know. Maybe, maybe have a certain length of time living in the community. Maybe, I don't know. But citizenship should not be a barrier to voting. You live in the community. It's in everyone's best interest that every community member votes. It's in everyone's best long-term interest. You live in the community, you vote. And everyone should be allowed to vote. 100%.
So are you an advocate for protected bicycle lanes? There's been, a number of lanes put on Crescent Street, Northern Boulevard. There's moves to expand them elsewhere. Would you continue that push in terms of protected bicycle lanes in Western Queens?
Yes. I love protected bicycle lanes. I love riding I'm a cyclist. I love it. When I get to City Hall, I'm just going to bike there every day. I love it. Love cycling. I mean, I don't want to discourage anyone from cycling, but I've had a couple broken bones, and so I know that, one was so bad, I broke my leg. It was pretty intense. I was in the hospital for weeks.
Where was that?
So that was in Manhattan, actually, 2nd Avenue on 26th Street. I got hit by a taxi and compound fracture, bone popped out. I had some metal, a lot of surgeries, got staph infection from it. Went to septic shock during one of my surgeries. I mean, it was gnarly, I think. The thought crossed my mind. I'm like, am I going to bike again after this? Because kind of, it's a little jarring now. But no, I continued biking. And so, but I'm concerned that if biking is not safe, we're not going to get buy-in from people. People aren't going to be into it. There's no question. If we have like a lot of people cycling in our city, mental health's improving, physical health's improving, hospital beds are opening up. I'm telling you. I mean, people are getting along. I mark my words. It doesn't have to be biking only, but get more people walking, get more people physically active. Believe me, we're going to have a happy city. So I would do anything I can to get more people cycling. Protected bike lanes, pretty logical way of doing that. Make them feel safe,
Any idea where you'd like to see more of them?
All over the place. And so maybe some car lovers are going to look at that. Crescent Street's a great idea. Sorry, Christian?
Did you? I lost you for a second. Where would you like to see them go?
Crescent Street. That's a great spot. I mean, they've already kind of built a bit of a protected bike lane there, sort of. Any one of the major avenues here in Astoria. You could find one on Astoria Boulevard. You can get one on 30th Ave. You can get one on Ditmars. And then speaking of Ditmars, speaking of Steinway, I'd be interested in seeing what it's like to just block all traffic from those streets. That might be interesting. any major avenue. And I'd like to see a kind of like a interconnected protected bike lane. I'd like us to get from Astoria, you know, down to whatever, Bay Ridge or wherever else, Brooklyn, who cares, anywhere on a protected bike lane.
Okay.
I mean, nothing but good things are going to come of that. Only good things are going to come of that. It boggles my mind anyone would be resistant against that. I mean, you know, maybe they're just, I don't know, too grumpy or something. I don't know, but sounds like a great idea to me.
Okay. All right. Terrific. What other, you know, what other things would you look into to better the transportation network in Western Queens?
Yeah, bus lanes. You know, we got these ideas about the BQX. You know,
yeah,
right? You know, BQX. Bad idea. Bad idea. It's nice. It sounds nice. Trolley sounds so pretty. Right along the water sounds so pretty. It's going to be hyper gentrification, so expensive. We're going to look at you know Hudson Yards, that vessel they built. I mean, are people really looking at that saying, "Wow, how inspiring"? You know, that's kind of an eyesore now. I think that's my opinion. But yeah, BQX would be something similar to that. We don't need BQX. It'd be great to get some increased clean energy bus services. We got to fix those transportation deserts. I mean, I think we do. I think we have to ask the people of that community, those who live in transportation deserts, like whatever, like 40 something street and like 23rd Avenue. You know, it's far away from any subway. We have to ask them. We have to get some community engagement. Find out like what kind of transit do you need. You know, they might not want mass transit for whatever reason. I don't know. You know, we have to engage with them. But certainly, fix transportation deserts first. Lean in on clean bus and then let's stay away from vanity projects like the BQX.
So, Nick, is there anything that you'd like to bring up that you're running on in terms of your platform that you'd like people to know about?
Yeah, I think that, right now, in 2021, as we're emerging from this, pandemic existence we just had for a year, the absolute most pragmatic, sensible thing we must do is we must lean into health and wellness ideas. We can't just pick up where we left off. We've deteriorated. I mean, we don't have to, we don't have to fall into despair, but let's just be realistic. Like, our bodies for a year have been much less mobile than they normally are. Weight gain has become a thing. Liver disease has become a thing. Our minds have been inundated with a lot of stress. Stress affects us physically. That's a lot of adrenaline, a lot of cortisol. So we are not of the same physical body and the same mind that we were when this quarantine shutdown started. We weren't. We have to be rehabilitated. The absolute most pragmatic thing to do right now, I entered this race pretty late. And it's because I saw what was happening physically and mentally to the community. And I said, this is when we need to lean into the yoga ideas. And it doesn't have to be specific like yoga down low, it doesn't have to be that. But it's just mindful movement of the body, breathing through our nose, breathing deep and taking time to breathe, and just taking time to shut up and close our eyes and just to listen and meditate and get our stress levels down. Like, these are important. And, it's hard to motivate people to do that kind of stuff. But this is what I do. This is what I've been doing for 12 years in Astoria. Yeah, I can put together programs and I can help encourage and motivate people to engage in programs that's going to be very, very good for their physical and mental health. I don't see anyone else in the race offering these programs. They're offering wonderful things, by all means. There's value to their platforms.
So Nick, are you talking about like allocating funds to these types of programs? If you were the council member, you would be like using your discretionary funds to to go toward local groups that put on these things. Is that kind of where you're going, or is there some sort of legislation that could sort of be passed, you know, dealing with these health issues you're talking about?
A lot of it is funding, for sure. A lot of it is funding. Schools have a health and wellness. They have school wellness councils that schools have the option of adopting or not. That could be a legislative initiative. Let's mandate school wellness councils. There's, you can, as a teacher, you can receive a grant from the Office of School Wellness. And you can use that grant to learn sound therapy or yoga and bring it into your classroom. That's a very individual, every teacher is on their own doing that. We could expand those grant programs. So we could expand the programs in all city public schools where we just bring in more time for physical education, more time for physical activity. These are both budgetary and legislative approaches. Mm-hmm. You can see it in the at the NYPD with the Office of Health and Wellness, which we were talking about earlier. Get some more funding into that program, and then also a lot of it is not just allocating money. It's not just writing new laws. It's having a certain mindset, a perspective of public health. Housing is a public health issue. Okay, when you're in Astoria houses, you don't have cooking gas. That's stressful. It's a pandemic. You can't leave the house, and you've got no way of cooking. That's stress. That's unhealthy stress. This is not just. So it's no longer just a housing issue. That's a public health issue. And if we think about it like that, we start to see there's really no. When it comes to health, there's no division. We all breathe. Find me a human being that's like, oh, I'm not so into breathing. It doesn't exist. Every single one breathes. This is a unifier. Okay, boom, let's start from there. Now let's talk about how do we breathe better? How do we provide housing and environment? How do we provide transit that doesn't cause our stress levels to spike? Because when I'm on the subway and it breaks down and I got to get somewhere, I get hypertension when it's just standing still. Everyone knows that feeling. We all know it. That's a public health issue. And we think about it that way. If we get someone to talk about it that way on the floor of city council, now we're going to start finding common ground. And we're going to start agreeing to stuff. And I think we can get more people to share and more people to cooperate. But you just have to have, the right message, the right person talking about it. And that's where I come in. I would be better at it than anybody else in the race. Voting for me is just a pragmatic choice of just solving problems. In 2 years' time, I could finish out a term. You don't need me anymore. I don't care. That's fine. I'll go do something else. But right now, 2021, yeah, you got to vote for me. I can put together the programs, whether it's putting the budget money in the right place, writing a new law that requires certain programs to be held in schools, the NYPD, or whether it's just, changing the tone of the conversation and just providing a new perspective. That public health is a thing. You got to talk about it. This is what I can do. I could do it well. So there's no question I'm the best. With all due respect to the other candidates, right now, with this particular hand we've been dealt, I'm the best choice for sure.
All right. Well, Nick, thank you very much on that note.
Thank you. Thank you, Christian.